Zooming is great. Whether you have optical zoom or digital zoom, it never matters because everyone who has held a phone in their hand has tried to zoom into an object at least once. The thing is, when you have an optical zoom lens like in these expensive flagships such as the Xiaomi 13 Ultra, Huawei P60 Pro, Oppo Find X6 Pro, and the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, you will definitely get better results. From zooming into monuments all the way to getting very close to the moon, this video will be a blast. Let the facts speak. We're going to be starting off just like in our camera comparison videos, which means you're now seeing the optical zooms of these phones on the screen. After this, we have 5x zoom. Something I want to point out at the beginning is that the Galaxy flagships always have lesser quality at this level of zoom, unlike the majority of other phones which have no problems combining digital and optical zoom at 5x. Still though, 10x is where it's at for Samsung. It kind of has an analog camera feel in this photo as well by being slightly noisy. I like the photos of the Xiaomi 13 Ultra and the Oppo Find X6 Pro here as well, as the Huawei P60 Pro is a little hazy, especially when you look at the trees. 30x pushes the S23 Ultra forward, as this is known as a sweet spot for their flagships when using the 10x optical zoom. Right behind it is a close race between Huawei and Xiaomi, as both of them have a bit more detail than the Oppo, which seems to be performing the worst at higher levels. 50x is no different, with the quality not being the best, and 100x overall goes the way of Samsung, with Xiaomi trailing close behind. Here is a nice scene from a park, and let's see what we're going to run into when we zoom in. As I mentioned, the 5x zoom is pretty bad on the Samsung flagship. It was the case in the previous models as well, so please, for the love of God, find a solution for this. Oppo is going to be filling the gap at 10x as their image looks underwhelming, as Xiaomi and Samsung are in a tight race. Even though the Galaxy is the one with the 10x optical zoom, the Xiaomi 13 Ultra looks great around these levels, albeit it's a little darker but with more detail. Even then, it does fall behind slightly compared to the S23 at 30x, with Huawei and Oppo not even being in the race. The continuation of this can be seen at 50, but if we were to choose a phone for the third place spot, Huawei would easily take it over Oppo. Lastly, here's the 100x zoom, as none of them are my preference, but the ones to the right do look a bit better. Now it's time to see how humans look when you zoom all the way up into their face. It kinda looks like I'm holding something in my hands at 5x zoom, but we do need to get a little closer to figure it out. At 10x, the S23 Ultra and the Huawei P60 Pro actually look pretty good, but I still can't exactly tell what the sign says. Oh, there we go! You heard it, subscribe to the channel right here and right now. You might be wondering why my face and the text looks a bit weird the more the zoom levels go up. This is because when the subject you're zooming into is so far away, the software has to try to understand what is in the frame and adjust the photo accordingly. Since the software for this isn't that advanced, you often have artifacts and funky looking images when you zoom too far. Image number 4 is a golden angel. I love this monument a lot, but from our office roof, just how good will the image quality be? I think it's fairly obvious to all of us that the phones are struggling, even the Galaxy with the 10x optical zoom, and I have to admit that the Xiaomi flagship is looking impressive. At 30x, not particularly content with any of them, as the Galaxy kinda looks detailed, but is very saturated, and the 13 Ultra looks darker than all of them. 50 is not going to be any different, as 100 is just disappointing across the board. I guess Samsung needs to work on their optical zoom cameras as much as they work on their marketing skills. And now, how about some nice sights in nature? Flowers are a popular subject when it comes to photography in general, and mobile phone users like to utilize the macro mode for these kinds of shots. I really don't know about you, but hitting that 10x mark is looking pretty problematic for Samsung, as Huawei and Xiaomi are not letting go. The difference gets more visible at 30x, as the Galaxy has the most amount of detail on the flowers as well as the leaves, while the others start to ask the software for help to fill in the blanks. This becomes the most obvious on 50x, where the S23 Ultra is still trying to maintain that natural look, with the green seeds in the middle of the flowers still being visible, and also on 100x as well. That was a long and hard look at how these top tier devices perform at higher levels of zoom, and it looks like Xiaomi is here to stay. In the past, there would be no phone that could even come close to what phones like the S21 and S22 Ultra put out, as their 10 times optical zoom was unbeatable. Now, the Xiaomi 13 Ultra is straight up there with a 3.2 times optical zoom, showing that the quality of the hardware and software can make up the difference. What I really want to see though is how videos look when using the zoom lenses of these phones. An interesting detail is that the optical zoom of the Huawei flagship activates at 4 times, which is pretty weird. Besides saturation, contrast, and sharpness differences, I'd say that the Oppo flagship is slightly worse than the others, but overall, they are the same quality. I just wanted to explain this to you so that you aren't confused when you see the 3 times zoom of the P60 Pro here not looking the best. 5 times though looks very good on it, as well as the Xiaomi 13 Ultra, some really top quality stuff here, even though this is not strictly optical but hybrid zoom. By the time we managed to get to 10 times though, it took too long, so I fell asleep. I'd say it's really close here between the S23 Ultra, the P60 Pro, and the 13 Ultra, depending on your preference. The P60 Pro has a small amount of noise creeping in here though, which will be way more visible at maximum zoom, leaving the race between Samsung and Xiaomi once again. Zooming into a sign might have different results, as the softwares are pretty adept at comprehending letters these days, so let's check it out. 5 times where Oppo actually looks decent, as it is sneaking up on Xiaomi. It won't be sneaking for long though, as the stage is quickly overtaken by the Xiaomi and Samsung flagships once again at 10 times, and respect the Xiaomi for hanging in there. At 15 times, the results are as follows, and since you've come this far with us, we also want to know your opinions on which phones had the best zoom performance at which levels, so make sure to leave a comment right before we move on to the part you've all been waiting for, zooming into the moon. There was a lot of controversy surrounding the legitimacy of these results after a Reddit user posted about how the photos were being faked on some phones, and it's funny to me because when we made our first zoom video, I got a lot of hate from Samsung fans because I said that according to my research, there was a filter that is applied to their moonshots, which wasn't appreciated by this community. Regardless, Xiaomi's supermoon technology is pretty on point, as it is already active at 10 times. Moving on to 30 times, Samsung has joined the fray, but the photo is still not as crisp as the Xiaomi 13 Ultras. Oppo is decent, as Huawei has opted to not go for software represented photos in their newest flagship, unlike things they've tried in the past. At 100 times, here are the results on the screen, and Xiaomi is just at the top of the list, but I'm going to ask all of you watching to once again tell us your thoughts in the comments about just how much you appreciate these photos and how much you don't. This was something that we wanted to do for a while, and we know that our community always loves seeing photos and videos that utilize the advanced zooming capabilities of these mobile devices. In the end, I would have to say that no matter how much the other phones are catching up, Samsung is still the king, with Xiaomi poised to overtake the competition in the upcoming years. Tell us your opinions about these devices, and also hit those like and subscribe buttons if you had a good time. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.